It was completely dark when my eyes snapped open. I lay still for a moment, waiting for pain, nausea, or anything else to kick in. It didn't. So far, so good. I sat up carefully and slid my legs over the edge of the bed. I looked around my prison, and as my eyes became used to the darkness, I could just make out a door in the far corner. Unfortunately, it looked pretty solid. My mouth felt as if it had been scoured with sandpaper, and again, I felt very thirsty. It felt like the kind of thirst caused by serious dehydration, a thirst that grows more unbearable with every passing minute. Thirsty, so very thirsty. I licked my dry lips. I suddenly wondered whether there were rats in here, and immediately swung my legs back up on the bed so I could sit cross-legged. I didn't want rats running over my feet. The very thought made my stomach churn. There were no creepy green eyes glowing in any of the corners, which meant I was alone, at least for the moment. But a new conviction gnawed inside me, one that said he'd be back soon, and I'd never see the outside world again. I wondered if anyone had missed me. Were they looking for me? I had a big circle of friends. Surely someone would have contacted the police when I didn't show up for work. Oh, work. More than anything, I longed to be back in the familiarity of the garish hustle and bustle of the theatre. I even longed for the grueling, strenuous rehearsals and the usual biting comments from the choreographer as he strived to get the best from us, his dancers. I missed music too, and I wanted to be with people. Most of all, I wanted to be outside. The only sound in this eerie place was the faint drip, drip, drip of water. It must be the damp running down from the walls, just as he had said. I shuddered. No wonder the sound of water had constantly been used as an implement of torture. It also explained how plumbers could charge so much, and why people in cheap apartments went crazy. The dodgy washers in all the taps made them drip constantly, and the sound drove them all mad. I remembered how yesterday I'd nearly fooled myself into thinking I was still at home, and the only problem I had to worry about was a faulty washer. Being incarcerated made my brain lurch into manic overdrive, and my imagination is rife at the best of times. I couldn't imagine why he brought me to this place, but whatever his plans were, they couldn't be good. The one comfort I had was that if he wanted to kill me, surely I'd already be dead. But didn't he say I was dead already? Sick, sick man. I wished he'd get on and do whatever he intended to do, and just get it over with. Time had no meaning at that moment. I had no idea whether it was day or night. I never wore a watch. That's what mobile phones were for, as well as making calls, obviously. Calls. Mobile. Of course. I jumped up from the bed to look around, but there was no sign of my bag as far as I could see. So no phone either, then. Damn. If this was evening, shouldn't I be at the theatre? I must have missed rehearsals. I'd lose my job. Surely someone had missed me. The door opened, and he strode in. His tall frame silhouetted in the light from the old-fashioned oil lamp that he carried. The yellow flame flickered in the damp air as he moved further into the room. He stood the lamp carefully on the floor and then came towards me. Terror gripped me, and convinced that he'd pull out a knife at any moment, I ran to the end of the bed and squatted down in an effort to make myself as small as possible. I pressed back against the hard, damp wall, feeling thankful that most of the narrow bed now stood between us. "Don't come any closer." My voice sounded thin and hoarse.
"My apologies. I forgot about the lack of light in here," he said.
His voice sounded calm, almost matter-of-fact. He could have been talking about the weather. I pushed shaky hands through my long, tangled hair and rocked back and forth. I didn't want him any closer to me. I really didn't. He continued to move closer. How I wished I could push myself through the wall in order to get away. I bit my lip to prevent a frightened sob from escaping. The now familiar pain suddenly clawed at me from inside my body.